Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Did you catch up on rest? Hopefully.
I did. I'm trying.
And catch
I'm
up
trying.
on
I'm looking
everything.
better, right? Do I look better?
Yeah, you never looked bad to begin with. Let me see my questions.
I was
All right.
like, when I was doing the questions, I was like trying to keep my eyes open.
Oh, poor you. Poor you. All right. Well, hi, Erik.
He's saying, "Hey, Mama, I love you."
Did you
He's
have
saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I haven't been around so much. It's been
Yeah.
really, 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 really busy."
I bet.
And I love you. I love you. You know that's never going to
Oh, I
change.
know.
Oh, he wants to say thank you to everyone for the great birthday wishes.
Oh, there were so many. So much love. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Erik, you probably know about this subject a little bit because you were bullied, but I'd like to talk about bullying today. Is that okay with you?
It's fine by me, Mama. He says it happens all the time, so we need to discuss it.
Do you think it's gotten worse over the centuries?
It has, because people are more and more into situations where they don't feel comfortable, or they come into families that are plagued by the feeling of being lost, of feeling separated, and that's being passed on to the children, and the children will pass that frustration on to other kids, or even adults, attacking adults, just because they're in that state of mind where they just can't see any more positivity in each other, and all they need to do in order to gain power, or in order to feel like they're in control, is to attack other people and basically absorb their energy in order to kind of get by their day.
How horrible. And now, of course, we have the internet, we have cyberbullying. You know, people feel so empowered behind the shield of cyberspace so that they feel
Right.
like
It's
they
a
can
lot
say and do
easier.
anything.
Yeah,
Even
he's
if it's
saying
hurtful.
it's so much easier to hide.
I know.
uh, you know,
Like
and
road
also,
rage.
it's safer because they can change their identities. They can, it's a lot harder for people to catch them, who they are exactly. And it's just, it's become more easy.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more easy to attack people just for fun, because some people really just do it for fun, just to taunt people, just to get the satisfaction that they have destroyed somebody's life.
Oh,
So
I know
yeah.
there was one girl in middle school that was so horrible to Michelle. I mean, she had her little pack of mean girls. Anytime Michelle would sit down at lunch, she would make them all get up and leave, or they'd follow her and say things behind her back, and just terrible. So eventually, she just had to eat lunch in the middle school. So we took her to a psychologist, and we told the psychologist who it was. Oh, I get a lot of business from her. It's like, great. Anyway, I let her have it on Facebook. I mean, I told her what harm she had done to my daughter and the effect it had long term, a big, huge long term effect, and she apologized. So, but so spiritually, from a spiritual aspect, why do people choose to bully? And then I also want to know why people accept being bullied, accept being the victim.
Well, if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, there's a few different reasons why bullying happens in the first place. A lot of cases, let's just say that most of the cases, it's really a contract. It's a soul contract where people who are being bullied, in a way, they attract those bullies into their lives, and they really learn from that experience. They learn to stand up for themselves. They learn to be assertive. They learn communication skills, and they learn to accept and release, and really to set personal boundaries in their life. How far will I let it go until I say no? How far until I start to stand up for myself? So it's really a great lesson. And I know this sounds horrible, you have to go through this, but it's really a great lesson to see, how stable are you within yourself, and learn to stand up for yourself, and learn to fight for yourself, and really learn to self-love. And a lot of the contracts in a human existence is all about self-love
Oh,
and about
sure.
acceptance. So
Yeah.
there's also lessons of acceptance in there, that, hey, we can't control what other people are doing. However, we can control how we respond to it, how we absorb it, because I can guarantee you that if you do not um, spend the energy or the time to even invest in what these other people are saying or
Mm-hmm.
doing towards you, that their interest will fade, because they won't get the response that they want from you in order for them to feel empowered, in order for them to feel like they are in control of you.
Mm-hmm.
So acceptance is also a really big key lesson in this. Now, for the people who are doing it, a lot of times it's a lesson of well, let's look at, he says, let's look at why people are doing it, when we look at, who is bullying and why are people bullying. Believe it or not, but the biggest the biggest bulliers on the world are male.
Oh, yeah.
There
Well,
are a
I
lot
don't
of
know. Girls,
females.
middle school girls can be really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's saying there are a lot of females as well. But if you look at, statistics, you're at least 66% of bulliers are male. So, and why is that? Why the males? He's like, well, if you think about it, if you look at it in the way that male individuals are raised in this culture, it's all about don't show any emotions. When you show emotions, you are weak. Stop being a girl. People get attacked. So what happens is, for males, it's really hard to, when they do go through frustration, when they do go through emotions, when they do go through bad times, they don't know how to express it anymore, because they're not allowed to express it.
Yeah.
So what do? They go into bullying, because it's a way of expressing their anger, their frustration, their hate towards what's going on. A lot of times it's about what's going on home, what's going on in the home situation.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's caused by divorce, by their parents. Sometimes it's caused by somebody who passed away, and they can't deal with that grief, and they can't deal with those emotions. Or sometimes, they're getting a new brother or sister. Or sometimes it's really just because they feel they have a lack of self-confidence. They feel bad about themselves, and they see other people, strolling around with confidence, and they don't, they want that, so they'll take it away from somebody and feel stronger about themselves.
Okay.
So there's so many different aspects, but male entities have a higher chance of doing it, just because they don't have any other way, or they're not allowed to cry in public, and they're not allowed to express their emotions.
Well, I'm sure testosterone does not help either.
And it's yeah, I'm pretty sure that doesn't help.
Yeah.
When it comes to females, a lot of times it really comes from a perspective of low self-esteem. It comes from a perspective of not feeling like they fit in, not knowing why they're here. It comes from a perspective of not liking themselves. And then it really turns into a jealousy contest. It goes into more of that aspect. So there's a big difference between, male and female when it comes to bullying. There's a lot of different aspects in how it starts, how it's being formed, and how it expresses itself. Males will usually go physical. They will go face to face. A lot of females will hide behind computers, or will send nasty letters, things like that, or phone calls.
Well, this girl, Eliza, you know who you are if you're watching this, which I'm sure she's not. She was very spoiled. She was from a wealthy family, and sometimes her father would just, when she was going out the door, would just hand her $100, things like that. And she just got everything she wanted. So it's almost like maybe a sense of entitlement on her part said, well, I'm entitled to be, better than everybody. Or I don't know. Or maybe being
No,
handed everything.
you know what the problem was?
What?
You know what the problem was? Her problem was she didn't get the affection and the love that she
She
wanted.
didn't.
She didn't get the attention.
That is so
Parents
true.
were always working. They were never there
Yeah,
for her.
right.
She was just a side product
Mm.
of the relationship. And when you raise your children to be a side product, that what they do is not really interesting to you, that you don't show affection or you don't show the attention, then kids will look for attention in a different way. And that was what she was doing. It was her way of trying to deal with the lack of attention. And they will do it in that way because it makes them feel in that family. It made her feel that she didn't matter. She wasn't important.
Yeah.
She wasn't in charge. Her parents decided everything for her, although she didn't get anything back from them. So she wasn't important. She was not in control of her own life. She just had to smile, nod, and look pretty. And that was what it was. And so what that does is, it makes you feel like you don't belong here. It makes you feel like nobody cares about you. It makes you feel like, you create this self-esteem issue. And
Well,
that's what caused.
it's amazing. I wish Michelle had told me earlier when there's, but it took a long time for her to open up to me about it. But I think she got something out of it. She is extremely assertive, very compassionate, and I think that really helps her. But it also took away her inner light for a long, long time. So what can you advise to people who are bullied? That you have a choice. You can become the victim and let it bullying just take out your inner light, or you can use it as a valuable lesson to develop certain skills like setting boundaries, being emotionally honest, reflecting on who you really are and how you deserve self-love and all these things. So what can you tell people so they choose correctly?
He's saying what I just wanted to mention for Michelle that what she got out of this is this kind of period where you said, where she was kind of, going in very introvert, was really a good thing because she really went inside of her. She really went inside to explore, okay, because that's what bullying does. It sort of it forces you to internalize things. And so let me just explain this real quick. He says, what bullying does is, or why it's so effective, why it hurts people so badly, is because when you're bullied, you'll start to internalize it and you'll become self-critical, right? Because people who are being bullied will eventually want to understand, why am I being picked on? Why is it me, right? Why am I being the target? And eventually what they'll do is they'll start to blame themselves. They'll find issues that's wrong with them and say, oh, that must be why. I'm doing it to myself. I'm attracting this. And so what that does is it can either break you or it can make you. You can choose. Once you go into that internalization, once you really go inside and say, is it me or is it their problem? Once you go in there, you have the choice to either say, okay, I accept that this is just a person who needs somebody to vent to, and he's just used me, or yes, it's me, and everything's wrong with me, and you really go into the self-hurting mode. So you kind of have to choose whether you go into, like you said, do you go into the victim mode or do you go into the survival mode? But how do you deal with it? What's the best thing that you can do when you are being bullied?
Well, let me before you go into that, because I do want to go. A couple of things I've learned from different counselors, etc. is, for example, you can sort of go into observation mode, like you're a reporter watching, and you had this plexiglass screen over you, and the insults just blink, blink, blink fall away, and you just feel like you're taking notice. Oh, how curious that you would say something like that. I mean, have that kind of mentality. Another story I
Right.
would
You
tell
look at
you.
it from an objective perspective. Look at it from a person perspective. Just like if you would be meditating, it's the same thing. We're observing it, but we're not getting into it. We're just taking notes of observing.
Now, I don't know that a child of middle school age would be able to do that. But here's another example, and I think Erik is probably going to disagree with this a lot, but it was kind of fun. I was at a pizza place eating outside with my husband, and there were a lot of people there, but there was this one older woman with a bunch of teenage girls that were obviously not her daughter. She was trying to be so cool. She was just talking so loud and just being just obnoxious. And people were like wincing at the noise. I could see they were very uncomfortable. So I said, "Excuse me, miss, could you please be a little quieter?" Very nicely. Oh my God. She got so mad. She stood up and started slamming on the table and blah, blah, blah. This is an outdoor place because I can do anything I want. Blah, 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 blah. And so I just said, "Oh, now you're just embarrassing yourself." And she shut up and sat down and felt so small. And everybody started clapping and thanked me and stuff. Of course, that is extremely judgmental, and I know it's not, but it would be a good tool. I think it would be a good tool for kids, something they could remember to say. But Eric, you're going to tell me something better because that's probably not coming from a place of love. You probably are going to say, "Send the bully love, send them love," and you can do that at the same time, I guess. But go ahead, correct me.
Oh, but no, Mom, you go, no. In a way, you are, what you did was right. What you did was you diffused something that could have exploded into something major by counteracting it. Okay, instead of adding fire to the fire, you used water to calm it
I
down.
don't know.
So that is, I mean, bullying it's such a hard cycle to break through, right? Especially when you're very young, it's really hard to defend yourself when you don't have those tools to get those knick-knack comments back to them.
Those things like, "God, why
Um,
didn't I say that?"
yeah,
Things like that. Yeah, right.
right. And that's the thing. It's all about power struggle. It's when people communicate with one another, there's a constant exchange of energy. And when people are already agitated or they're not feeling good within themselves, they constantly lose energy. And so they will attack other people in order to gain that energy back.
So
But
what
what you
practical
did in that
advice?
moment,
Yeah.
what
Give me
you
some.
did in that moment, the reason she got aggravated was not because you asked her that question. It was because there were other issues playing already in that day of hers. She already had a really bad day,
Or,
and you just, added an extra
oh,
drop to it.
great. Now I feel guilty. But no, what do
Right.
you do?
But
What can
that's
you?
okay.
What kind
But
of
I'm saying
child?
what you did was
Mhm.
you didn't allow yourself your energy to really get up there,
Oh yeah.
and you just diffused it by giving her an answer that she couldn't attack to. Now, when it comes to little kids, and I know people are going to think this is weird, but this helps. Emmanuel has tested it several times in her job, and it does work. And I know what he's going to say because I do use that all the time. Um, as a little child, you can say when they're being attacked or when they're being, verbally abused or they're being yelled at or whatever, all they need to learn to say is, "I'm sorry you're in so much pain, but I still all the love and light in the world." They immediately shut down. They don't know what to answer to that. Now,
No.
I've tested this. I used to work in a store, and I would have people who were, having a bad day, and they would work it out on me, and they would go, "Oh, why don't you go faster? And this is that, and this and that." Everything was wrong with what I was doing. I would just complete silence and stay completely calm. And I would tell this person, "I'm sorry you're having a bad day, ma'am, but I still wish you all the best for the rest of the day." And they immediately shut up. They don't know what to say to that because you are wishing them love and light. And you're saying, "I'm sorry you feel bad."
I have done
So
that before. If somebody's ranting raving, just turn around with kindness, and it's awesome. It just
it
works. And then they start
does.
apologizing. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to come at you so hard." So
Exactly. And
Eric,
that's what we need to teach our children.
yeah.
That's how they need to respond. Don't tell them to fight back. Don't tell them, yeah, just defend yourself. Give them a punch.
No,
Don't
don't
be,
let your ego get in the way.
no, no.
I've done
You
that
say,
before where I
"Stop."
get mad if somebody attacks me, and it just only gets worse and worse. But when I say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done, you know, dinged your car," I don't know, I'm just making up stuff. And, probably we're already having a bad day. I feel really bad about it. "Oh, no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Yeah." That's what happens. Okay, so Eric, what do you think?
So the same thing with internet bullying.
Yeah.
If they're sending you mean messages, send messages of love back. Send them big hearts and big, big, beautiful pictures of how love can overcome anything. That you're okay. I can guarantee you those messages will stop real quickly because they'll get bored with all your lovey-dovey stuff.
Oh, I know. That's awesome.
So,
What do you
um,
think, Eric? What else can you offer
when
as far as
you
practical solutions?
when you are a little bit more into the teenagers and adult years, when you're more, you're more advanced, it's really about understanding the lesson in it and understanding that this is all about finding the self-love. This is all about acceptance and about finding compassion towards the person who is being mean to you. So, my number one he's going, my number one advice for people is, first of all, stop bullying yourself.
Oh,
Okay? Because
yeah,
what bullies do is they use your own insecurities against you. And so no matter what circumstance that you are in, you will always attract the way people treat you by the energy that you send out. What I mean by that is what you send out. If you're insecure, if you're full of self-doubt, if you are afraid of everything, you're sending that energy out. And people will use that and abuse that. So love yourself. That's step number two. How do we stop bullying ourselves? By loving ourselves,
yeah.
by sending love and light to ourselves every morning, by understanding how special you really are, and by understanding that it doesn't matter who or what you look like, that you are unique, that you are special, and that you are very, very important in this world. So by loving yourself, you actually take away the one thing that bullies prey on, and that is your insecurity. That is your flaws or whatever you think you have as flaws. You're taking away those tools from them so they have nothing to bully you with. When you're confident in your life, when you are full of love and joy, it won't matter what anybody else tells you anymore. That'll all fade away
That's
because
true.
you'll be
It's
good
hard
with
for
yourself.
teenagers though because they tend to be insecure anyway. What about saying
And
something
you got
like,
the
what about
hormones. You
saying
got
something
the
to the,
hormones,
yeah.
mom.
What about,
Hormones go crazy. And that is something that is a physical, it kind of adds aggravation to it.
sure.
And there's nothing we can do about that. It's just the physical changes and these hormones that are controlling our mood swings.
Yeah.
So the best advice for them is to give them those answers, to send them, hey, I'm sorry you're feeling like shit, but I still love you and I wish you all the best. It's
Good.
giving them that, that needs to be trained in from childlike,
Or
you
another
know?
thing they could say is, uh, I'm sorry you don't feel like you love yourself or you don't have self-love
Right.
because
You
you
know, or
deserve
if
it.
you
You
ever see, if
deserve to
you ever
love yourself. Something like that because that's going to hit them right there and it
right,
made them reflect, wow, I kind of don't like myself. So what other
exactly. Or what you
sentences?
can do, he says, is another one is just saying, hey, I can see that you're hurting. If you ever just want to talk, I'll be here for you. That will totally diffuse the bomb, and you might actually gain a friend because for the first time maybe in their life, they will have somebody who said, hey, I can see your pain. Because
Yeah.
a lot of bullies hide their pain. They
They
don't
don't feel
want to talk to
acknowledged.
anybody about it.
They don't feel like their pain is acknowledged. All right, what about somebody like my little 9-year-old, somebody in elementary school? What can they say to a bully that's
Well,
simple?
again, like I said, we can give them the message of love, but we can also
Well, they're
um,
not going to do that. I
teach
mean, I
them.
don't think an elementary school kid is going to say all lovey-dovey stuff. What can
Well,
they say that they can
it's
remember?
important to kind of teach them that. They need to
Okay.
be taught that response. However, we also need to let our children know that it's okay to ask for help when we are being bullied. Ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask a teacher, ask a parent. It's okay to reach out. It's not about being weak. It's not about being a failure when you ask for help, but it's about acknowledging that there is another person who is hurting you because he is hurting himself.
Yeah.
And so that way, by asking help, by telling your children that it's okay, just come to me if something happens and we'll figure it out.
Well, do you think the parent should intervene by calling the other parents, or will that just make things worse? I mean, I'm sure every individual case is different, but
Yeah, it's all different, but what we can do is we can have a discussion, let's say, with if it is happening in school, we can have both parents come together, maybe with a mediator, with somebody who can help in these cases and say, hey, what's going on? Where are the problems? Why are we dealing like this? And when they are in that very young stage, kids will, they will listen to what's going on. They will seek the assistance. Once they get into teenager mode, then they're going to be like, I don't give a shit what you say.
Really?
You screw me. Then we have to go into a different approach. But when they're still very young, intervening, teaching them that it's okay to ask for help, that when parents call parents, there's usually a fight. There's going to be an explosion of opinions. But what we need to do is we need to bring the parents into a neutral zone where there are referees. That's what we need to do. And people who have, who know how to deal situations.
Like a school counselor or something. Well, what about bringing the kids together and having them mediate the two kids?
Oh, but they would have to be there with them. Yes, they would have to be there with them. So
well, maybe the kids were by themselves. I mean, they might get pissed at the victim for bringing the parents in. It's like, oh, you're a tattletale. You told your parents, they got mine involved, and blah, blah, blah. What about just the kids and a counselor sort of trying to work it out between them? No?
Well, you can do that as well. But the reason I'm saying that it's beneficial to have the parents there, because usually kids are responding that way because there's something going on in the family. There is something going on in the parents. True. And so what you're giving is, you're not only giving guidance and understanding to the children, because they would have to be present with the parents as well, but you're also giving some tools to the parents and say, hey, your child, these parents might not even know that their child is responding to that in that way.
Yeah.
Parents are going through a divorce. Let's say the parents are fighting and they don't even realize. They're not bad people, but they're going through the emotions of a divorce, and they're not realizing how their little boy, for instance, is responding to that, because at home he's not saying anything, he's hiding. A lot of kids hide when their parents
and they need to know.
And then it comes out. It needs to come out somehow.
I have 3 quick 4. What one sentence would you tell your niece Arlene to say to a bully when they are bullying her? Everybody gets bullied. She gets bullied rarely, but she still does. What should she say? What would be a good for her?
He's saying, well, she's a very compassionate person, but she has a little bit of an edge.
Well, she does. She got some toot on her, man. She got some toot, yes.
He's saying what she needs to do is she needs to learn, and Mom, you can help her with that. She just needs to learn to, first of all, stay calm, because she's a person that can get on her high horse real quick. Mm-hmm. She gets very defensive.
That's true. She has a lot of pride.
Yeah, so he's saying she needs to learn to take a breather before she does anything. Okay. So and then the next step is
take a deep breath. Okay.
Take a deep breath. Tell her to take a deep breath, or to go to the bathroom for a minute to just kind of calm down. And then once she does, she needs to step up. She needs to show that she's assertive, that she's in control of the situation. She steps up to the bullier or whoever it might be and say, I know you're hurting, but I still love you if you ever want to talk. Or I still, anything in that area.
I still care about you.
Yeah.
Or she might not even be able to say that. Or maybe just, I'm here for you if you need me.
Feel comfortable with. But her first step is calming down, because she will go immediately, that's kind of who she is. She's a respond first, think later kind of girl.
Just like her mother. Okay. Now, what are first of all, just a real quick one. Will bullying ever stop in our lifetime, or when will bullying be? It's probably 10,000 years from now that'll stop.
It'll reduce in the hundreds of years to come, but it's never going to fully fade away.
Because
there's always
a
portion of the people, a portion of the population who will deal with this factor, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, what about the lessons that this is for the collective? We talked about what the individual can learn from this on both sides, but what about the collective? And also, lastly, what are the solutions for the collective? God dang, fax machine. I can't unplug it. It's probably, we can redo your roof. That's all I get. Roofing people after hurricanes, especially. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Well, he's saying what it teaches a society, what it teaches the global consciousness is really about understanding that there are hidden issues that people need to see. If another person hurts somebody, that there's an underlying factor, that
Okay.
there's something there. So it's all about finding the compassion and the acceptance that it's not just anger, it's not just attacking somebody, but what is the story behind it? It'll teach us to be more compassionate and to really find a way in our hearts. He says, he's pointing in his heart. He's saying, find a way in our hearts to forgive even the ones who hurt our babies, even the ones who hurt others, because they need help. This bullying is a cry for help. Bullying is a cry to be heard, and we need to respond it in the correct way. What we're doing now is we're expelling kids. We are attacking them at the same level that they are attacking us. We are destroying them even more. And it's a cry for help. That's what it is. It's a cry for help.
Sometimes the people who are hardest to love are the ones who need it the most. All right, last, what is a solution that society, what are some solutions for society to embark on?
Stop judging. Don't judge on what you see, but look deeper.
Well, that's an individual. What about a collective? What kind of campaigns or whatever? Should there be some sort of, maybe all schools should have conflict mediation classes? I mean, I don't know, nonviolent communication courses. What? I mean, I'm talking about grand scale collective stuff.
About what we could do to address it?
To help get rid of it or quell bullying.
Well, collectively, we need to learn to love ourselves. Then we won't have to wear bullying.
True.
Self-love is number one. Number two is really finding purpose in life again. Mm-hmm. The reason why people are lost is because, they feel like there's no reason for them to be here. They don't see the connections. They feel like their life is meaningless. They feel lost. They don't feel like they deserve anything. So if you look at it from a big scale, it all comes back to self-love. It all comes back to finding a way to heal human beings from the inside out. That's really what it's all about. If we can do that, then we will reduce bullying with at least 90%.
Yeah. I think it would be cool for schools to have like older peer mediation, conflict, resolution, whatever, like a fourth grader. If they're being bullied, maybe there could be a fifth grader who gets the two together and helps them work through it, for example, or the counselor.
No, there's all
sorts of things you can do.
Yeah, and there's different things that we can do. Yeah. We can teach assertiveness in schools. We can teach classes on how to handle bullies, because when you bring a class together in teaching a class, how do we handle bullies in the right way, then guess what? People have to work together. There could also be classes where we learn mindfulness, where we learn how to meditate, to deal with our frustrations. There could be classes that need to be about sharing, being open about things, because mindfulness classes, you have to share what is in a mindfulness class. You really have to share in a group what is bugging you, what is hurting you, and sharing can really relieve a lot of that tension, and can also create friendships that will then help that person into dealing with that toxic environment or that toxic idea that they have about themselves.
Yeah, so it's vulnerability.
Learning to listen to each other, opening up, and really going inside to find some peace every now and then. If we can introduce meditation, mindfulness, which they're starting to now, and really get some help aid groups, or groups where people can just, maybe talk to some kind of counselor, maybe in a group, kind of like an AAA meeting, or where you can just talk about problems, and people are there to support and not judge. Even for small kids, we have that for adults. But when it comes to smaller children, to younger kids, kids can be suicidal when they're 2 years old, 3 years old, depending on the environment that they come into. Um, and what he's saying, what Erik is saying is true. Here in Belgium, we already see that parents are sending their 4-year-olds to mindfulness classes, especially designed for children, because they see that they get frustrated in school for some reason, and it really helps them. So we need to introduce this. This needs to be a part of our educational system. Give the kids the tools to find that self-love,
but I think
to
they
know
also
how
need
to handle frustrated
they need
people,
to
not to let them practice.
they need to learn that vulnerability helps establish connections, and that's really important. Now, what about also role playing bullying, so that kids of all ages can practice doing what they need to do, to stop the bullying from going on, like some of the tools that you
that's
mentioned.
What I meant with that's what I meant with the class about, how to act when you're bullying. You'll practice on one another how to respond back in a correct way, so we don't get into anything. And that's all about assertiveness. It's all about dealing with frustrated people. That start why they do that now in adults, with adults who have specific jobs. A lot of people will go, oh, you get assertiveness class to deal with this kind of customer or to deal with that kind of customer. Why not start when children are smaller, so they know how to handle without hurting themselves or without hurting somebody else? How do we respond when somebody attacks me verbally or somebody does this to me? Why not start when they're younger?
Sounds awesome. Well, that's I think that's a good note to end on. You guys can get in touch with Emmanuel at emmanuelmcintosh.com. And is there anything else you'd like to share?
You can also find me on learnitlive.com. I have several classes there that you can order that have been pre-recorded. And I would suggest to go to the channelingericwithak.com website and definitely check out the 2 books that were written. They are amazing. And I know every time you read one, Erik is standing right behind you, because I have had who said, every time I read the book, I feel cold. And I'm like, that's because Erik's going right next to you going, what do you think? What do you think?
No, he does. He seems to, anybody who reads his book, My Life After Death, they seem to get some sort of visit or sign or prank. I mean, nothing scary, but it's really amazing. And it's a great book. It's like $8.64 right now. It's so cheap, but it is a life changer. It's a page turner. You will cry. You will laugh. It's really, I'm not bragging because I didn't write it, but it's really a very good book. So you guys check it out. And the other is My Son in the Afterlife, which sort of journals my journey from skepticism to belief. But in both books, you really get an idea of what it's like to die, what heaven is like, what your life as a spirit will be, and even how your senses and emotions change, everything. And you know what spirits do all day? They do not hang around on clouds and play harps, I promise you.
It is a lot of fun, I think. When I read them, I laughed my ass off the whole time, especially Erik's book. And for people who don't, whose English isn't all that great, my mom, speaks half and half English. You've heard my mom. And she was a little worried about the book because here in Belgium we can't get it in Dutch yet. But she said, oh my God, when I read it, it was like Erik was helping me to understand. She read page after page. She didn't have to stop once. So she felt it was really weird because she's not used to reading English so fluently. And I said, well, Erik was right next to you and he was helping you connect to the words.
Wow, that's cool.
So for everybody who's afraid of the English, if your English isn't that great, it is not a problem.
But it's in several languages too, so check it out. All right, thank you. And thank you, Emma. Thank you, Erik. I love you. This was really awesome, and I hope it helps a lot of people. Bye, everybody.
I love you too. Bye, guys.
Bye.